just let them all just.
Yeah.
If you're going to fire his entire offensive staff, either him saying that, or either that being a concession to him keeping his job,
Yeah.
or it being the decision coming from him of, yeah, I know a change needs to be made. I'll make that change.
You
I'll
ready?
be the one to take the fall. Yeah.
Okay, I hit recording already and hit that stream button, get it over to the other side. If you're listening to the podcast, you just got the pregame. Yeah, this is going to be fun. It's going to be a good show. And 3, 2, 1, go live. And we're live here on Facebook. I'd like to welcome those listening in podcast line, and also like to welcome my buddy Rich. Rich, how you doing today?
Mike, I'm a little sore from all that shoveling I had to do over the past, off and on all week with the amount of snow that we got here in the Quad Cities. But looking forward to only having one more round of shoveling, which is going to be done after we get done recording, and then I should be good for a couple of days.
Rich, you survived both snowmageddons you had this week?
Yeah, survived, and I still went into work. I didn't use the cop out, or I didn't take the opportunity to. No, I'll stay at home.
Did I see that you guys got something like 20 to 30 inches in 1 week?
Yeah, it was a lot.
Wow. We only got like maybe a foot on the ground total. So that's crazy.
And then it gets better. Then we go from snowmageddon to cold as heck. Bundle up because we get the Arctic blast coming through all next week. So we go from bundle up and be safe while you're cold to since be safe when you're out shoveling the snow to
don't go outside because you're gonna die.
Yeah, don't go outside because of how cold it is. Yeah. So it's awesome. So how have you been, Mike? You
know what? We had 2 snow days this week. I did what I was supposed to do those 2 days, and yeah, it's been great. Like, it's been a good week. Got to spend some good time with the kids, and hang out with the wife, and I got cinnamon rolls waiting for me upstairs when we're done with the show. So it'll be a good day.
Ooh. That leads right into a good discussion point for our poll question this week.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about cinnamon rolls and other stuff, as well as Rich, we didn't do it last week, but we do have to talk about NHL and NBA standings. Hopefully we get to that, as there's lots of discussion to be made elsewhere. Speaking of which, what are those other discussions we have to make this week?
Mike, we're going to be talking some football. We got to talk about the NCAA National Championship. I don't even think, Mike, that we gave a prediction of who we thought would win that national championship game. So we'll kind of talk through it. And we got to look back. We got a wild card weekend to talk through this week, as we're going to be seeing a lot of football. The weather. I think the weather, if you were picking a lock or an upset for these matchups, I think the weather would have to be your lock of the week.
Oh, 100%.
As a lock of the week. But all right, Mike. So a lot to talk about. Hopefully we won't get into too many rants or soapbox moments, but I got a feeling we will. But Mike, all that and more, but what do we got to do first, buddy?
We got to broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa. This is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich. And we're back. So, Rich, before we get into the sports side, we already said we're going to talk cinnamon rolls with our poll question. So, go ahead and let's start with this week's poll question: Fruity Pebbles versus Cocoa Pebbles. Where'd you vote, Rich?
Mike, I went with Fruity Pebbles. We didn't get this cereal too often when growing up, but it was always just whether it was the off-brand Fruity Pebbles or the name brand Fruity Pebbles. This was just one of those cereals for me that when I would start eating it, between how I pour my bowl of cereal, which is the cereal first and then the milk, and then because I'll have
You mean
leftover milk at the end.
only right way to eat it?
Okay, because I'll have leftover milk at the end because I don't like drinking milk as is, just as a beverage.
Yep.
I'd have to get more cereal.
Yep.
Because of how dense Fruity Pebbles is, that would lead to having to do almost 3 bowls at a minimum, like 3 bowls, before I could get all the milk used up. So that resulted in almost only a quarter worth of the bowl of the box still being left over after I got done eating that one meal. But I just like the taste of Fruity Pebbles over Cocoa Pebbles. I like fruit over chocolate.
I can dig that. I actually am a Cocoa Pebbles guy. I think,
okay.
And I voted for Cocoa Pebbles. The reason is, at the end of it, you get chocolate milk.
You do get chocolate milk, and I think chocolate milk is. If I were to be if I drank milk as a beverage, I think chocolate milk would probably taste better than the Fruity Pebbles milk.
Yeah. So with that, we had 17 votes this week, Rich.
Nice.
11 of them voted for Fruity Pebbles. 6 voted for Cocoa Pebbles. So let's give the losing side a shout out first. Me, Pam Hendricks, Debbie Washburn, Sue Hart, Faith Leatherman, and Mikey, a rotor. You guys all voted for Cocoa Pebbles, probably because you like me, want the chocolate at the end. These are your Fruity Pebble fans. Kayla Nilsson, Jordan Stroop, Solomon Stroop, Greg Sackerson, Josh Hendricks, Danielle Hart, Michael Sable, Rich Hendricks, Ashley Lindquist, Josh Couture, and Ken Moreland.
Okay, I have one more. I forgot one more thing for the Fruity Pebbles though as well.
Yeah.
I think I've also made Rice Krispie treats with Fruity Pebbles, and those are very tasty as well.
Now I want to make Rice Krispie treats with Cocoa Pebbles, but I want to make Scotcheroo. I want to make Scotcheroos with Cocoa Pebbles.
Okay, or you could just use the chocolate Rice Krispie treats.
Or chocolate Rice Krispie. Either way.
Yeah.
But
all right, so Mike, we teased with you saying that you've got cinnamon rolls waiting for you for breakfast when you get upstairs. Yeah. After recording here, so this week, Mike, we're gonna go with cinnamon rolls versus Pop-Tarts.
Ooh.
For our breakfast.
Man, I know where I'm voting on this one. It'll be fun. Okay, Rich. With that, let's head out of poll question land and head into talking about the national NCAA national championship for football.
Yeah. So this year it was Michigan versus the Washington Huskies. Michigan dominated that game 34-14, winning their first title in 26 years.
Yeah.
But do you think that this I guess title could be tainted with the cheating allegations that Jim
100%.
Harbaugh got levied against him?
Not only do I think this is a tainted national championship, I predict within 5 years it will be vacated. It will be another time where we don't have a national champion because they'll just vacate it.
Yeah, but it's still going to mean something to the kids. Is obviously, are they going to be forced to turn in their championship rings?
No. The school buys those for the kids.
Yeah.
Are they going to be like? Is that going to lower their draft prospects? Probably not.
No.
But here's the thing: there was enough evidence to suspend Jim Harbaugh for a quarter of the season. How is it not going to be vacated in general then? Like that's my question.
I think eventually it will. So the trophy will have to be put away, taken out of Michigan's trophy case. But I mean, it's not going to stop any of the players that played on that team from saying, "I was a national champion in 2024, in 2023."
Totally agree.
Or even Jim Harbaugh taking that off his resume. I coached a national championship team.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that we talked about it, and I mean, I know I didn't read a lot into a lot of these. Well, what all went into their cheating scandal or anything, but from what little I remember of it now is that it was surprising to me that they were doing it to such low-level teams like Central Michigan or Western Michigan.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like,
it's like why would you go to all these troubles to get steal these signs or have somebody cross the line as far as how they were doing their advanced scouting to where they were dressed up in the opposite team's apparel and somehow made their way onto the field, their feet onto the sideline to look at these signs. But this seems like this would be the type of measures that you'd want to take for a division game that you know that's going to look good on your resume for the playoffs, like an Ohio State or a Penn State.
I totally agree. Here's my question about it though. Okay?
Okay.
Is it one of those things that you have to win the game? Like, there's not an option at that point. You have to win these games, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't win these games, then that's where the problem's going to be. And if you don't win, you're in serious trouble. Like that, if you don't win a game against Central Michigan, the likelihood is that you're going to have problems with your rankings system. They're going to look at you and say, well, you don't deserve to be first. You lost to Central Michigan. How do you lose to Central Michigan? Well, yeah.
I would think that you wouldn't need to take those measures against teams like that if you have national championship aspirations.
Theoretically, I think you're accurate. I don't think you should have to take those measures. I don't think they had to anyway. In general, I think they have a great team. I think they have a good coaching staff. I think they understand the game well enough that this was pointless. But the fact of the matter is that they did. So,
yeah. But if anything, I mean, if at least with Harbaugh serving that suspension, if he decides to go back to the NFL, at least they know that they have good assistant coaches that they can elevate to the head role, with the interim coach doing so well in Harbaugh's absence during that 3-game suspension leading into, especially with them being at the helm of the Ohio State game, which got them the #1 ranking and into the top 4 for the college football playoff.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there. But I don't know at this point. I think Harbaugh. At first, it looked like it was inevitable that Harbaugh was leaving anyway. So, what was the harm? But I think that I think he's gonna stay now. It sounds like they're wanting him back. They're happy with what's going on. 3 months ago, if you would have told me Harbaugh was going to be coaching in Michigan next fall, I would have said you're crazy. Like, how's he going to do that? Now I'm looking at it like I don't know that he's going to leave Michigan. Why would you leave Michigan at this point?
Because you don't want to be. I don't know. I mean, he's still going to get the type of NFL money coaching down in college, but
yeah. He might even make more.
Yeah, but he could be the one that has to shepherd the program through the NCAA penalties that he put himself in, that he put the team through.
Yep.
And maybe he doesn't want to be. He could go to the NFL. He could be the one to go to the NFL instead. But if anything, him winning the national championship does give him an out, because he can say that I came to Michigan and accomplished my goal, which was to bring them a national championship. Now I'm going to go back to the NFL and finish my work there.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's the goal. But man,
yeah, by all means, it could be hard to turn down Michigan's money, knowing that, and probably in Michigan, he's got a lot more job security than he would up in the NFL.
Yeah.
All right, Mike. There, along the lines of college football, Nick Saban stepped away from the University of Alabama. Age of 72, he stepped away, citing that he couldn't honestly answer. It became increasingly more difficult to answer the question on the recruiting trail of, will you be here in 2 to 3 years while my son is playing for you?
Yeah, I was shocked. That shocked me. That might have you had a question, and we're gonna address what's the biggest shock in the NFL coaching carousel this year. This to me is probably the biggest question in the coaching anything that I did not expect that at all.
Yeah, but I really respect his reasoning.
Oh, I totally.
Obviously, at 72 years old, it wouldn't surprise me at all if you're going into an 18-year-old, 19-year-old's home to recruit them to come to Alabama, and the mom or even the kid is saying, "How much more longer are you planning to coach?"
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't. For me, it's hard because I expect that. I think I think if he wanted to, he could last another 10 years if he wanted to. But the hard part, the thing that I would say, and this is for me, in my mindset, looking at the situation, I think the better way to handle it, the better outcome for him probably would have been if he said, hey, you're right. This year, not going to do it. Or this year, basically stop your recruiting now. Say, hey, I'm not. Announce now that it's going to be 5 years before you, or 3 years. Give a leeway. I think that's the better way to do it with his rationale. Because with his rationale, for him to say, when parents asked that question, it's harder for me. Here's the problem that I have with that. If you're using that as your rationale, 3 years ago, a guy asked you that. Mm-hmm. He's sitting looking to go into his junior year if he did a red shirt. If he started as a true freshman, then he's going into his last year of eligibility. And you're going to say, well, yeah, I told you 3 years ago that I'm going to be here in 5 years. If that's what you did, right now you've made yourself the liar to those guys because you don't want to lie to current recruits. And again, then the hard part becomes, well, is the only way to get current recruits to come to say, hey, I'm retiring? What about the current class of recruits?
That's where the transfer portal comes in because you decided to step down. Now they can go into the transfer portal just like it would be if Saban was to be fired or move on to a different job.
Yeah, but again, if that argument says we had to, if your argument is, hey, this is what's going on, but that the transfer portal will always be there.
Yep.
If you said to a class today, yeah, I'll be here, the transfer portal will be here when you leave next year, or in 2 years, or in 3 years, or in 4 years, whenever you leave. So I think the better way for him to have done it would have been to announce his retirement and make it 3 to 5 years from now.
Yeah, and you can also say that, yeah, I may not be here for all 4 or 5 years of your college career, but Coach so-and-so is already in place, and he's going to be my successor.
Yeah, if that's gonna be your argument, that's how I think you should do it. But again, I understand I understand why he did it the way he did, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah, and I also remember him saying that if you're thinking about retirement hard enough, that means you're already retired.
Yeah, that's true too, and he said that multiple times. So, Rich, you do have a note that Washington's
Kellen DeBoer, the head coach of the Washington Huskies, has already been tabbed as his replacement.
Man,
so they're hiring the hot hand
to
come in for Saban. But I think that's going to be a tough a tough job to fill no matter who they got. I was surprised that it wasn't an in-house candidate to where you could at least keep some of the recruits that were there in-house that Saban recruited. And if Saban's top lieutenant that was on the current Alabama staff just didn't work out, then you could clean house and go outside of the house.
Yeah,
outside. I'm hire an outside candidate after that.
I totally agree with you on that.
Then you're not the one Then the coach you hire isn't the one isn't replacing Nick Saban, a Hall of Fame coach.
So I'm gonna reach back to my Wayback Machine. When I was a kid, I grew up Catholic, and the priest that baptized me at the church that we were at for most of my growing up life, to a certain point, most of I say, the guy that baptized me was that priest. When he retired after 20 years, when he left, he was at the church that we were attending for like 20 years.
Okay.
It was less than a year that the person that replaced him was there. Why? Because he's not the person that these guys loved for the last 20 years. He does things differently. He had a different attitude. And so after that time, so the people rejected him. And I understand why. I don't think it was rightful. I don't think it was the best reasoning, but they did. And so then they get a new priest, and that priest then is allowed to stay there I think he stayed there for 10, 15 years. So the difference is, and why am I bringing that up? Saban's been in Alabama for like 10 years now.
No, it was like 26 years, I think it was.
Okay, 26 years. Saban's been there for 26 years.
Well, it's at least a long time. I'm trying to think. When did he get fired in Miami?
I don't remember. I thought
but he's been there at least 20 years.
It can't be 20 years because Tebow, he was there with Tebow, wasn't he?
Well, Tebow went to Florida, Mike.
Oh, wait. Then
I'll look it up. Keep going.
But either way.
Okay. All right. He started at the Alabama back in 2007.
Okay. So it's not 20 years, but just under 20 years.
Yeah.
So he's been there that long. Alabama loves him. Alabama expects great things. Kellen is walking into a terrible situation. I would not have taken that job. I would have taken the job because I know that in 3 years you're going to fire me anyway. So I would have, for me, looking at it, if they want to pay me $1.6 million to fail for the next 3 years so that you can build a case to say, hey, we want to bring in Kellen DeBoer, sure, that's how you do it. I'll do terrible. You're going to fire me anyway in 2 to 3 years. And I make a few $1 million. I'll make sure that my contract says that you're going to pay out whatever I want, like what you're going to pay out whatever $1 million afterwards. So I make a total of like $10 million on a 3-year contract that you're stuck on. And see ya. That way, when it's time for whoever the next person is, can come in and they're like, well, at least he's not that guy. That Mike Hart, that guy sucked.
Yeah, or the guy after that, or the guy after that.
Yeah,
whenever he coaches 2, 3, and 4 after Saban aren't going to be. He's not Nick Saban. He's no Nick Saban.
I think 2, 3, 2 will be 2 could be the magic number. But being so the guy immediately after.
Coach number 3, you won't hear the talk of he's no Nick Saban.
You might, but I don't think it will be as pronounced. Which is
gotcha.
And I think even 2 could be that way. Because your first guy is always going to be compared to Nick Saban. That's always going to happen. Your second guy, well, you had a buffer. And that buffer is the guy that gets compared to Nick Saban. And now you have a guy that, okay, what's going on here? And that's where I think that decrease comes. Let's move on, because we still haven't gotten to Week 18, and we're at 23 minutes in this show, Rich. And we still have the Bears to talk about.
We do.
We have the Bears year in review still. So,
all right, so week number 18, the Buccaneers, or locks of the week. Mikey took the Buccaneers over the Panthers. Surprisingly, this was a game of field position and field goals as the Buccaneers won 9-0, improving your mark to 12-6. Mike, I picked the Cowboys over the Commanders. Cowboys won 38-10, at least ending my year with a win on locks.
Yep.
But I still finished below 500 with 8-10. Mike, how'd the upsets do?
Rich, for upsets of the week, I picked the Cardinals over the Seahawks. The Seahawks pulled it off, dropping me down to 9-9. Seahawks won 21-20. By the way, look how close that came to being a real upset. Boom. The Giants, you picked the Giants over the Eagles. The Giants won 27-10. Bringing you up to 11-7 on the year. We got to talk about those Eagles in just a second. Yep. Finally, Rich, the Bears played the Packers in Green Bay. As terrible of a game as it was, the Bears were in it the whole game. As the Bears lost to the Packers, Packers win 17-9. We both picked the Bears. We both dropped to 9-8 on the year.
Yes, and the Bears finished with a final record of 7-10. They get draft picks number 1 and 9. So, Mike, before we get into talking about what the Bears did this week, with a lot of teams evaluating their coaching staffs for next year, let's first talk about our NFL preseason predictions.
Yep.
All right, Mike. So let's start with the NFC. So, Mike, you said that the Cowboys would win. I said that the Eagles would take that division. You got that one right. We both got this North wrong, as we both said the Vikings would win it. The Lions ended up winning. Neither of us got the South, as the Buccaneers were your division winner. I said the Falcons. You went with the Saints. And we both got the West right, as we both said the Niners would win that division, and they did. Wild cards. Mike, you got one of the 3 wild cards. As you said, it would be the Eagles, the Bears, and the Seahawks. I did not get any wild cards, as I put the Cowboys, the Lions, and the Seahawks.
Yeah. Rich, in the preseason for the AFC, we both picked the Bills. In the East, that went correctly. We both picked the Bengals. The Ravens ended up pulling it off, mostly probably because of injuries, I would say. The Texans pulled off the South. You and I picked the Jags and the Titans. You picked the Jags. I picked the Titans. We both picked the Chiefs in the West. That came through by the hair of their chinny chin chin. And then finally, in the wild cards, Rich, I got one wild card correct. You got none, as we picked the Chargers, the Jets, and you picked the Ravens and I picked the Dolphins. Now, the Ravens are in the playoffs, so I will give you credit for that one, as you got one of the wild cards correct. You just didn't get that they were in the wild card. And I got the Dolphins making it. Your wild card in the AFC are the Browns, Dolphins, and Steelers. Rich, pre-season and AFC matchup, you picked the Bengals over the Chargers. I got bad news for you, Rich.
Oh, I know. It was bad. There were some good expectations.
Oh, there were.
Had,
yeah. Them Chargers.
The Chargers.
And I think if the Bengals don't, if the Cincinnati
Joe Burrow doesn't get hurt,
yep,
they probably could have made the playoffs, at least as a wild card. And they almost made it as a wild card.
They did.
Almost.
They almost pulled it off. As such, they didn't. So neither one of those is going to happen. I picked the Chiefs over the Jets. The Jets did not make it. So Rich, now we have. Now you have to pick pre-postseason. How are you going to get the postseason? What are you looking at for the AFC championships?
Well, Mike, I think that the Buffalo Bills are playing football at a good football at the right time, as they're entering the playoffs really hot. And if the AFC has to go through Buffalo, that's going to be a lot of cold weather games.
Yeah.
2 feet,
potentially 2 feet of snow this week.
Yeah. So I wish that Buffalo had a better ground game.
Yep.
But they don't. But I'm going to go with the red hot team, and I'm going to go with the Bills over the Ravens.
You know, I don't mind that as a pick, and I hope that for the Bills because I'd love to see the Bills in the Super Bowl. But I am going to pick the Chiefs over the Ravens, which means that, I hope that happens. Rich, over on the NFC side, you said the Niners over the Cowboys. How do you feel about that, and is that where you're going?
I'm going to stick with it. The Cowboys have played really well at home. They get 2 home playoff games as long as they win, which I think they can. And the Niners, I think, are the team to beat in the NFC, so I'm going to stick with it that they can make it to the Super Bowl. Mike, you went with the Cowboys over the Vikings. The Vikings didn't make the playoffs. So who is your new NFC championship prediction?
I'm going to stay with the Cowboys, and I'm going to say they win. And I'm going to stay with the NFC North, and I'm going to say the Lions.
All right. I was having a little bit of hard time trying to figure out if the Lions could make it to the NFC championship game with the way the bracket falls. And I don't know if there is a combination of wins and losses where that can happen. But we'll go with it. I think we'll go with it. So, Mike, that leads a Super Bowl, Mike, to be that would make the Chiefs versus the Cowboys. Who wins that game, Mike, in Las Vegas?
Chiefs over Cowboys?
The Chiefs versus the Cowboys.
I'm going to go Chiefs.
All right.
And that's what I said at the beginning of the year. Yeah.
You did. So, Mike, I put the 49ers winning the Super Bowl, and I'm going to hit with it, but instead of beating the Bengals, they're going to beat the Buffalo Bills. Mm-hmm. All right, Mike. So we alluded how we were going to make our pre-postseason predictions. Let's get into the wild card weekend. So on bye this week, due to being number 1 seeds, are the Baltimore Ravens and the San Francisco 49ers. So, Mike, the first game of the day.
Rich, I got to change my thing.
Oh, okay. Who are you going to go with?
So it cannot be Detroit versus Dallas, because if Detroit wins and if Dallas wins, they play each other in the next round.
Yes.
So it will be San Francisco. It'll be Dallas over San Francisco. Sorry,
Dallas over San Francisco.
I had to look at the bracket real quick, and yeah, it would be Dallas over San Francisco is going to be my prediction.
All right, so Mike, as you know, so wildcard weekend, our first game of the day is today over on the NBC.
Yep.
Where the Cleveland Browns will take on the Houston Texans.
Yeah. I'm going to pick the Browns. They seem to just be winning stuff today.
All right, yeah, I'm going to go with the Browns as well. The Texans are a good story. You'd love to see them pull off a victory and
that would be
keep
awesome.
it going. The Browns just seem like almost like a team of destiny right now, and with Joe Flacco coming off the couch and finding ways to get them football wins, even if he commits 3 turnovers.
Yeah, it's crazy. Rich, the second game today, I'm not going to watch because I ain't paying for Peacock. I think it's stupid.
No, I'm not going to play for Peacock either.
I think it's stupid that that you have to pay for a specific streaming service for a playoff game. I don't think Amazon should get it. I don't think Peacock should be allowed to do it. I think it should be on something that you can get with a standard subscription of something. But it's Dolphins over Chiefs. I'm going to pick the Chiefs.
All right, Mike.
It's going to be a cold day.
This is the one where I probably have the least confidence in, if we were going to give confidence points, but I'm going to go with the Dolphins. I know that Miami has a history of never playing well in the cold weather, but it's going to be cold for both teams.
Yeah.
And so it could be a field position and a matchup where you're going to want to keep the ball on the ground, and Miami's got a good ground attack.
They do. I don't mind that. Rich, the Steelers versus the Bills, CBS first game tomorrow. What do you got?
I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills.
Same. Cowboys, Packers. This is the end of the road for the Packers.
Yeah, no matter who was going to be going into Dallas, I was going to pick Dallas because of how dominant they've been at home.
Okay, Lions versus Rams. I said over Rams because that's what I think is going to happen.
This is another game where if we were doing confidence points, I think that this would probably be my second matchup.
Yeah.
Second least confident pick. But I'm going to go with the Lions. The Lions have played well at home, but it's still the Rams are playing good football at the right time of year as well.
Yep.
And finally, Mike, over on ESPN ABC, it'll be the Eagles versus the Buccaneers.
The Eagles were the hot team at the beginning of the year, up until like week 12.
Yeah,
we both had them as number one on our stuff at week 12, and since then they have plummeted. I'm picking the Bucs. The Bucs are doing well right now.
Yeah, I would have. I feel more confident in the Bucs if they had put up more points on the board against the Panthers.
Yeah,
but the Eagles, between not their offensive identity, just not having one, just falling apart, and injuries to the wrong people, I think I got to go with the Buccaneers. Jalen Hurts has got one wrong kick and knocked Jalen Hurts out of the game with that injured finger, and they've lost A.J. Brown with a sprained knee.
Yep.
That's their best receiver.
Okay, let's go into the week 18. Means the Monday afterwards is always Black Monday, where we see coaches fired.
That's right. So during the middle of the year, we had Brandon Staley of the Chargers, the Raiders letting go of Josh McDaniel, and the Panthers letting go of Frank Reich. So, Mike, who were the coaches that lost their jobs come Monday? Or during the week?
Yep. During the week, we saw the Atlanta Falcons fire Arthur Smith. The Commanders fire Ron Rivera. The Titans fired Mike Grable. Seattle got rid of Pete Carroll. And in some way, shape, or form, Bill Belichick is now leaving the Patriots. We don't know whether... the problem is the way that they've done things, we don't know if it's a mutual decision or if it's a firing or if it's a Bill Belichick solely leaving. Either way, Bill Belichick is out of New England. So, the first question of the week, of these jobs, which is the most desirable job to you?
Ooh, the most desirable job to me.
And I think I'm going to change what I said earlier. I don't remember what I said earlier.
I don't remember either. This is a tough one, but I think I would go with Atlanta on this one. There's some pieces in place on that offense that, with Bijan Robinson, Drake London, and a solid defense, and Kyle Pitts, and a solid defense that improved this year, I think that they can be a quarterback away, whether it's drafting one or signing as a free agent. That you could take that division, you could set yourself up to win that division every single year.
Yeah. So I'm actually gonna say the Chargers. You're saying they're a quarterback away in Atlanta. Guess who has a great quarterback? Guess who has a great team?
The Chargers.
I think the biggest problem in LA is there's two big problems, two massive problems for the Chargers. One, they are a team without a home.
That is correct. A lot of they're having problems putting butts in the seats in the when it's a Chargers home game, and when they do, it's often the opposing fans.
And even beyond that, that's not their stadium. They didn't build that stadium. They're renting that stadium. The Rams built that stadium. That is a Rams home stadium. It is not. So even if it yes, the Rams are having similar problems, but the Rams built that. That is their home. The Chargers are just renting it. So that's the number one problem overall. The number two problem for the Chargers this year, coaching. And I think Brandon Staley was the problem this year, and has been the last couple of years. I think if you get a good head coach, you get a Bill Belichick, you get a Pete Carroll, you get one of those guys down into the Chargers. 2 years, I say next year they're in the playoffs. 2 years they're looking at at contending for a Super Bowl.
Okay. I mean, the only problem that I see with the Chargers and why I didn't select them is that Herbert's not on that rookie deal anymore.
That's all right.
He's been paid, so you've got to, when you're filling out that roster, you got to maneuver around his contract to fit everybody else in around the salary.
But Rich, back in the day with the Patriots, Bill Belichick had terrible what they were paying everybody. Not even, I mean, even though Tom Brady was taking hometown discounts, Bill Belichick was still taking lower tiered at the beginning of the season, at least, no named wide receivers, and made that team into a great team. He just needs a great quarterback. And if Bill Belichick goes to LA with the Chargers, what does he have? He's got the quarterback. He's got the quarterback he needs. He can make the rest work.
Okay. Because of how much we talked about other things before getting to the coaching news, we won't speculate or make little predictions on who we think could fill those jobs. The only job right now that has been filled is Gerard Mayo taking over for Bill Belichick, as there was a clause in his contract that said that he would be the heir apparent to Belichick once the move happened.
Yeah,
so the Patriots' job is no longer open.
Yep. Finally, Rich, which is the least desirable on this list?
Least desirable, Mike. I would almost, for me, it's between the Raiders and the Panthers.
Okay, I'm
going to go with the Raiders because I almost think that Mike Davis just has unrealistic expectations for this team.
Yep.
So I think that you could. So I don't think that this team would ever commit to a rebuild, so you could actually build the team up from the ground up and have sustainable success.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you would have a full leash to fully build the team the way you would want to build it, because he wants to see winning football.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I'll take the Panthers just to spotlight how terrible that location is. They are already destroying Bryce Young. And man, I don't know. And
you got an owner that'll fire you.
Yeah,
that has a short temper.
You have a terrible owner. You have a terrible front office. You're never going to get anywhere. You got a year to get your position in play and make your team look good. And if you don't do that,
at least better than the last guy.
And if you don't do that within a year, we've always talked about that. In general, it takes 2 to 3 years for a team for a coach to get everything in order and to get the team doing what he wants them to do. You're never going to get that much time in Carolina. It's never going to happen. It sucks. Don't go there. Okay, now finally, we didn't see a head coach move in Chicago. But they did get rid of their offensive coordinators, their quarterback coach, and their receiving coach, if I remember. I don't remember all the way.
Yeah, I think it was the receiving coach. But Matt Eberflus survived.
Yeah.
So, Mike, you've said multiple times on the show, fire everybody. Yep. Fire everybody. Let them all go. Is that still your stance on the Bears? As far as, did they make the right call?
Oh, they also got rid of their running back coach.
Okay. So basically anybody that was coaching the Bears on the offensive side of the ball is looking for a new job.
Rich, I gave you little inside baseball. Rich and I kind of had, if you're listening to the podcast, you heard some of the last bits of this as Rich and I gave some quick conversations about it. You got the last minute of it. But if not, if you're listening on Facebook or watching, and if you're watching on YouTube, you got that last minute too. But if you're listening on Facebook only, you didn't get it. We're gonna talk about it. But I actually found some stats and gave them to Rich to help against what I'm gonna say here. And I think they needed to fire Matt Eberflus. I think the team is on fire. I think the team deserves. I think nothing. And here's the big deal. So the stats that I gave you, Rich, and I'm just will be transparent. I found this page and I loved it. I think it's great, and it gives you a bunch of stats. So I'll let you go through the stats real quick. Once we go through those stats, I want to talk about some things about it and why I think the decision that was made was the wrong one.
Okay. So I guess, Mike, I'll start with the obvious one, Mike. Did they win just by wins and losses? Did they improve from year 1 to year 2?
Yes.
Yes. And you also just said that it takes 2 to 3 years for a new head coach to put their system in place to start building that culture. How many years has Matt Eberflus had?
He said 2.
He's had 2.
Okay, that's fine. I'll give you that.
Okay. So, Mike, we'll start with where their total defensive rank. They ranked number 16 on defense.
Okay. I mean, Matt Eberflus is a defensive. Came over from being a defensive coordinator and is a defensive guru. Why should I be surprised that they're the first team in the bottom half? I guess they're the last team on the top half. They are the last team on the top half of the league. Last team, by the way, on the top half.
Okay. Rushing stats. They were number 2. They were the number 2 overall for rushing yards in a game.
This is one of those that really does hurt my argument. But then I realize, who is making play calls?
Luke Getsy.
Oh.
The guy that they let go.
Oh. So Lou Getsy, the guy that you let go, is making the play calls, and he's the one calling these. By the way, that your number 1 rusher was your quarterback, and he was out for half the season. I'm sorry, if the offense is doing that well and your head coach isn't coaching them, isn't play calling, isn't managing it, lets the entire play calling and all of that be handled by Lou Getz, why does he get the benefit of how good they did but doesn't get the punishment for how bad they were?
Okay. Third down percent, but at the same time, like your argument about he wasn't the one calling the plays. I mean, not every head coach is the play caller. You have some coaches that are more of a CEO type coach,
okay,
and let their coordinators be the ones to call the games. Up until was it week 5 or 6, his defensive coordinator was the one calling the defensive plays.
Yep, you're right. And I'm not upset about that, but my problem is when he's turning everything over to his offensive coordinator, you can't give him the credit for number 2 overall yards rushing or number 12 overall in third down percentage.
Yep. That was the next one.
Or
that was the next one I was going to give you.
You can't do it. If he doesn't get the blame for their win-loss percentage, then he can't get the credit for number 2 overall, the stats on the offensive side. Do I find it amazing that they were number 2 overall in yards rushing this year? Yeah, I do. Does it change my mind? It makes it a great argument. But the other side
overall, I mean, I thought that they probably should have retained him because of how the team improved overall from year 1 to now. Because year 1 was a complete teardown.
Yeah,
you could have put. I don't think there would have been any coach that could have turned that team the team that he was given in year 1, and into a winning record where they wouldn't fall to be the number 1 overall pick.
Okay.
And so I think he deserved more time. But the thing is, now that they're almost pitting themselves into a situation that he's now, you almost got to give him an additional 2 to 3 more years, because you're not going to be able to get a good coordinator. You're not going to be able to get good support coaches to come in and join his staff if they think that in a year they're going to be looking for another job again.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But at the same time, you do need to eventually build up a stability in the coaching staff as a whole, even if you're going to be getting new offensive or defensive coordinators every single year, every couple of years, because those units are underachieving.
Yeah, but again, at some point, the buck has to stop with the head coach, and also, when it comes to that stuff, doesn't when it comes to the head coach, isn't he the one that puts those positions in place?
He is, and Getsy was his guy. That's who he wanted to be his offensive coordinator.
So if you're telling me, so again, back to my argument, if you're saying, number one, he doesn't get the blame for it, and number two, he doesn't get but he still gets the credit, but he also made the bad decision of making that guy his offensive coordinator,
or letting him stick around as long as he did.
I think the logic is not following, but I can understand it. I'm not mad at it as much as I was 2 weeks ago.
All right.
I still think they need to fire everybody, but
yeah, so far the Bears have interviewed Shane Walden of formerly of the Seahawks, and I think it's Liam Cohen, who's currently the Kentucky offensive coordinator, but worked for the Rams before going to the college ranks.
I got a fun question.
Okay.
Not that I think it'll happen, but if Eric Bieniemy doesn't end up getting a job
with a head coaching job,
as a head coaching job, would you want him as our offensive coordinator?
Oh yeah, I think he'd be a good addition as an offensive coordinator. I don't know if I would want to wait to see.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'd want to wait to hire an offensive coordinator if there was an off chance that I could get him. But yeah, if he's available, yeah, I would. Yeah, I would totally offer him to be the assistant coach, offensive coordinator position, similar to what he had in Washington this year.
Well, and likelihood is that he will not be. He either will be head coach in Washington or he won't be in Washington, because normally when a head coach gets fired, everybody under him gets fired. So he should be available, and if nobody picks him up as a head coach,
he's going to be somebody's offensive coordinator.
Why not Chicago?
Yeah, I can totally agree with that.
Why not Chicago?
I think they could also be looking at plucking somebody from San Francisco, as they've also looking to interview Blake Kubiak as a possible offensive coordinator type.
The other side of my argument with Bieniemy, if you want, I mean, man, that's where I want to go. Anyway, we'll leave it alone. We'll see what happens. By the way, if we do hire Eric Bieniemy, I would put in his contract that he's the next head. Like, I would do the same thing that the Patriots did and have that in his contract and ready to go. Okay, let's do a quick standing. We're at 52 minutes. We got enough time. We'll do a quick standing on the NBA and NHL, as we've been needing to do it since Christmas break, basically. Rich, let's go with the NBA first. You tell me. Actually, I'll just give you the standings. Wow, I'm looking at it. So it's the Celtics, Bucks, Sixers, Pacers, Cavaliers, Knicks, Heat, Magic, Bulls, Nets, Hawks, Raptors, Hornets, Wizards, and Pistons. Pistons, by the way, 3 wins on the year. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we hit on that last week, saying that they were.
Yeah.
Wow, how do you go a month without winning a game? So, Mike, I was trying to keep all those teams together, and I think the only team that I didn't hear that we didn't equally list on both of our lists. You put the Hawks as being a playoff team. If the season ended today, would they be a playoff team?
Correct. They would not be.
And I put the Brooklyn Nets. Would they be a playoff team?
They would not be.
Okay. And I think that with the way that we listed our teams of being the Bucks, Celtics, Heat, Cavs, Sixers, Knicks, and Pacers, I think all those teams are in the position to be in the top 10 and make the playoffs.
Correct. It's the top 8. Or
okay.
Top
well,
9.
No, you got
top 9.
9 and 10. 9 and 10 make the
okay.
Make the play-in tournament. Though.
So if 9 and 10 make the playoff tournament, then it would be actually the Nets are in the play-in tournament.
Okay.
They would play the Bulls.
All right, Mike. So give the top 10 teams in the Western Conference.
In the Western Conference, you got the Timberwolves, you have the Thunder, you have the Nuggets, the Clippers, the Kings, the Mavericks, the Pelicans, the Suns, the Rockets, and the Jazz.
Okay, so going through those teams, Mike, I got to applaud you as you did put the Thunder as one of your playoff teams.
Yep. By the way, they're number 2.
I was kind of surprised. I know.
Number 2.
I was when you made that pick of they're going to be my 8th team. I was kind of like scratching my head. I was like, I don't know about that one. But one team I don't think I heard was the Warriors, a team that we both have listed.
Yeah, they're at 12th right now.
Okay. And the other team that we both put on here was the Grizzlies.
They are 13th.
Okay. And
Rich, for you,
yeah,
the Lakers are 11th.
Okay, that was just about to ask about the Lakers. And where are the Mavericks? They were one of the teams that I listed.
Yeah, they're at 6, so they were listed as.
They would make it.
Yep.
All right, Mike. So I put that my preseason NHL pick would be the Suns over the Bucks. You put the Nuggets over the Bucks. So you're still feeling good?
Actually, I'm feeling better about it as the Nuggets are 3rd and the Bucks are 2nd. So I feel good.
Okay. So Mike, going over to the NHL real quick. The Atlantic Division. You said the Maple Leafs. I said the Bruins. Who is the current leader?
The current leader is the Bruins. The Leafs are in 3rd.
Okay, so the Leafs would still make the playoffs as you take the top 3 teams from each division.
Yep.
I believe the Metropolitan Division. You put the Hurricanes, and I said the Flyers.
They are 2nd and 3rd, just behind. I don't understand how that works, but yeah, 2nd and 3rd.
Okay. Over in the Central, Mike, you put the Avalanche, and I went with the Minnesota Wild.
The Wild are not. The Avalanche are 2nd.
Okay. And finally, the Pacific, you went with the Knights. I went with the Vancouver Canucks.
You have number 1. I have number 2.
All right. And finally, Mike, the preseason, Mike, you went with the Knights over the Devils. Where are those New Jersey Devils, Mike?
Yeah, they probably aren't going to make it.
So. All right. And I went with the Bruins over the Wild.
Yeah.
So 2 teams that are at least in the playoffs. Yeah. I said that the Bruins would hoist the cup. You went with the Golden Knights.
Yep. And I still stand by the Golden Knights. They're doing great. Okay. With that, Rich, we have let's do our quick hits as the Cubs made a signing finally in this offseason.
Yes.
And who is that?
They signed Shota Aminga.
Yeah, I just wanted to make you say that rather than me try to make it.
And it's okay. I probably mispronounced it anyway. But Aminga was probably like the 2nd best pitcher coming out of Japan this year, outside of Yamamoto.
Yep.
He's a lefty, so the Cubs rotation as it stands right now will have 3 left-handers in it.
I'm okay with that. Also, with Cubs news, Kerry Wood and Aramis Ramirez both joined the Cubs Hall of Fame. And we will talk next week about the USFL, and the XFL joining forces. Rich, we got through most of our outline this week. Good job.
He did. Thank you, Mike. So we'll probably continue to talk more coaching hirings as they happen. Is some stuff some coaches hire before the Super Bowl.
Yep.
But this will probably be a topic that we'll keep on the outline and talk through as hirings get announced. And Mike, we did make our wild card prediction previews, and just to remind everybody, the NFL Pick'em group that we have.
It does do wild card.
It goes through the playoffs all the way to the Super Bowl. So if you're in our NFL Pick'em group, make sure to make your picks.
Thanks for reminding me, Rich.
Still continues, huh?
Thanks for reminding me.
You're welcome, Mike. All right, Mike. Do you have any shout-outs this week? As we're getting toward the end of the show.
I do not, but I do have an announcement. We've been talking about how we're going to do a fundraiser for our Okoboji Esports Pioneers esports team. The link is in the description, so check it out. Buy stuff. Shipping is $10 if you're going to have it shipped. If you want it, if you want to pick it up at the Okoboji Middle School or delivered by me if you're in person, you can have that done for free. But it's $10 flat fee for delivery if you want it delivered. With that being said, Rich, you got shout-outs.
I do have a shout-out. I forgot to give it last week, but 94 years young, my grandpa Frank. So we went out and celebrated his birthday on Sunday. So
he's the reason you're a Cubs fan, isn't he?
Reason I'm a Cubs fan, and even at 94 years young, watch out for that guy at the bowling alley. He can probably hustle you, as he's still a really good bowler at his age too.
Check that out. Okay, Rich, with all of that being said, people, if you want to watch us on Facebook, it's facebook.com/ballsandsticks. If you want to participate in the poll question, check us out, facebook.com/fans of balls and sticks, or follow Rich and I, and you will find it where we share it as well. Also, if you want to listen to us in your car while you're driving, check us out wherever you get your podcasts. Rich, they're listening to us, but they want to watch us, and they don't like Facebook. How do they watch us?
Look us up on the YouTube.
Yep. And finally, Rich, what's the time to do?
Mike, why don't you go and roll that outro?
Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa. This is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich.